So tonight we're doing 3 delicious wood-fired pizzas with 3 different types of doughs. A bit experimental. I hope you enjoy the episode. Welcome back to Rolling Flame. Tonight we're going to cook wood-fired pizzas in the brick oven. I don't call it a pizza oven, I call it a traditional oven or a brick oven. Let's load up. Only one works. There's no firm or fixed rule on how you should make dough. There are so many different ways, and I'll take you through a little evolution. We've made different sorts of dough before this, even with bread makers, and they've come up great. We've moved into some of the newer styles more recently. But to start with, we have this, which is out of a Thermomix. So it only takes 5 minutes to make, literally so easy. And that's actually risen really well, and it's got a bit of a wobble going to it. When I cook this, I'm not going to stretch it out. I'm actually going to roll this one, and I'm going to use a docking tool on it because that's being true to the way we always use this dough. So that's a style that I'm going to stick with for this dough. The next dough is a Poolish dough, where you just make a pre-fermented starter the night before, and then you leave it to rest in the fridge overnight, and then that becomes your starter mix, and you mix it with flour and salt and water the next day. So that's rising pretty well. So the last one, we've just got an Ooni recently. Ooni has an app which is available to anybody, and it's got a really handy dough calculator there, and I mixed this one by hand this afternoon, and it's just a dry yeast type of dough. This is a Neapolitana style, and we've only done it with a 4-hour proof today, so I'm not expecting to get a lot of strength in that dough. So we'll let those continue to just gradually proof away there. I'm not going to divide the TM6 into dough balls. I tear it out and make a dough ball on the spot. The Poolish, I will cut that up into half, and that'll go in a proofing tray. I'll also put the Ooni Classic in half in a proofing tray as well, and we'll just stretch it out more of a traditional style. So this is the firewood we collected yesterday. It was really some pretty terrible conditions, and we got this home thankfully just in time because a massive storm came through. The rain was so torrential, and this massive wind came through as well. But luckily we got some semi-dry firewood, so it was raining when we collected it. But today the conditions very, very humid, so I'm not expecting a hot fire because it doesn't burn as well when the air is so moisture laden as it is today. I would have liked to have had more substantial firewood, but we have to work with what we've got. I've got some firewood in reserve here. This has been sitting here for months and it's very dry. We'll have no problems tonight. So while these still exist as balls, I would like to see them rise a little bit more, but they're going to be fine. First of all, I'm just going to get the Poolish dough out, and I like to keep the top on top and the seam on the bottom. I dust my surface, and I'll dust the top of that a little bit with some semolina flour. I'm going to bring this up here, and to get it out, I sort of have to just kind of dig it out. It will stick to the bottom a little bit, but it'll be fine. Up it comes. I'm just going to plop it down there. So I'm just going to guess the size. Okay, actually, you know what? This was 4 pizzas. I've just realized. No wonder they look so big. You can just sort of drag the corners under and around like that. And the idea is to have them form a tight surface on top. Okay. Another way to do it is just like this, and you kind of knead it at the same time, and you'll see that it will form a very nice gluten cloak. That's the way I'm more accustomed to doing it. And that's how it should end up looking, like that. Okay, so that one's a lot better. There we go. I'll pop the lid on so they don't dry out. Now we're onto the Ooni Classic, and this one was definitely only 2 pizzas. Just do my best to get the quantity correct. A bit shaky, we're not on level ground here. It'll still keep proofing in there. I normally do 2 of these at once, but the board's sliding everywhere. I've just put this here for demonstration purposes. Okay, bit of a seam on the bottom there. They will just continue to proof in there for an hour or so minimum. Sometimes if you go past 2 hours or a bit over 2 hours, it can be overproofed and it can just sort of go flat and lose all its elasticity. So you've just got to find that sweet spot where if you push it, it's still just got a little bit of bounce back. So we'll come back soon and be cooking pizzas. So this is a cold firing and we lit this about an hour and a half. We're just starting to get something now on the ceiling called the bloom. So the bloom is where the temperature gets so hot that it actually burns the soot off the ceiling. We can see on the ceiling that there's now clean bricks. So that will extend all the way out to the whole oven if it's a nice hot fire. And it's just a really good sign that the fire's getting up to temperature. Okay, so there you can see the concept of this oven. It's a barrel vault design, so it's like a half cylinder on its side basically, whereas a dome is just an igloo shape, and you can cook quite deep into that oven and you get that rolling flame the whole way over everything. Yeah, it's a pretty efficient oven. The door's actually quite small. It's that way for a reason. I think it's 63% of the size of the dome, so as much of the heat stays in as possible. So we're here for the pizza creating phase, and we're starting with the TM6 dough. This is the one I've used for quite a few years and it's never let me down. So I pretty much know how much one of these is. Okay. So the next part is form a crab shape, and look, it's full of air bubbles and everything. And yeah, it forms a pretty good dough ball. It's not airy, it doesn't have bubbles hanging out of it like some of the other ones do. So clearly it's not going to be quite as puffy. So the next thing is, just gets a good coating of semolina. So you start with basically a circle like that, and you just continually work the dough. You pick it up at 9 o'clock and you drop that to 6 o'clock. Yeah, it's still got a fair bit of elasticity, so because it's a bit cooler today, it actually wants to spring back, and you can see it's going to be a bit of a thicker pizza. A lot of the time people are getting pizza that's super thin in the middle. This is not that pizza. So there we go. So this is what liberates the pizza from the peel, a fairly fine dusting of semolina flour. So you don't want too much, because if you do, that will just end up burning onto the floor of your oven. So you can either roll it up on the roller like this, like so, and then just, stretch it how you want it, or you can just simply pick it up. I'm going to put some San Marzano tomatoes on here, Parmesan, mozzarella, and Colby cheese. Now you don't want to just sort of overload it. And now we have some, decent quality pepperoni sausage here. You can actually put quite a few of these on there because they do shrink. These will cup up and they've got a fair bit of fat in them, so you'll see they actually add what looks like quite a bit of liquid to this pizza. And then it should just shimmy on the board like this. Shimmy, shimmy, shimmy. Now, obviously I need to clean that off. I could use a wet natural fibre mop, but sometimes I find that's quite easy. In we go. And straight away, it's fairly aggressive in there, so I will have to turn this pizza fairly quickly, and you'll see it will rise almost instantaneously. So basically you just have to watch this like a hawk. And if you look back in there, Mr. Cameraman, you'll see the griller and the ceiling. That's very hot. I should have taken the temperature on the floor first. You can actually see that semolina just firing up. Doesn't affect the pizza though. Floor's really hot, and that will stay hot. Bring it closer to the door because it's fairly aggressive in there. You can see the pepperoni cupping up straight away. That's pizza number one. Now we're onto the Poolish dough. This looks like a good candidate. It'll just come straight up. So what I'll do is I'll just drop it straight into a bath of semolina flour, and we always come back to the top. So really the aim is to keep the air in there. So you'll notice it's got some good bubbles on there, but you start by pushing in the middle like so, and you work your way to the outside, sort of looking like a bit of a life raft really, and the crust will be super airy. Okay, so now we basically we can do this and just work our way around. That's an easy way to do it. We can also do the steering wheel. That's another easy technique, and it just gives that edge a quick pull. So this is obviously going to be a lot thinner pizza. Straight onto the board. Now you can see that's very thin, and that's what concerns me sometimes with this style of pizza dough, because they can be a bit sort of droopy. So we have to give it the best chance of having some sort of structure by cooking it at a nice high temperature so that it gets some firmness to the crust. I'm going to use a shredded cheese today. Once again, sacrilege, I do have bocconcini, but this is sort of more approachable if you're just making your first pizzas ever. Just got to save some pepperoni for the last one. There we go. Shimmy, shimmy. Now this time there will be some burnt on semolina, so I have this wet natural fibre mop, and that's all you need to do. Just get rid of it and we're ready to go. Go Poolish. Looking good. Got a nice cornichon on it. Just bring it back out a bit so I can see what's happening. You can see pepperoni sizzling away in there. Yeah, still pretty blonde. Quick little buzz in the smokier air up there. Bit of smoke flavour. We'll be tasting these at the same time, and this is the last one, which is the Ooni classic dough. So there's a nice plump beastie there. Once again, top down into the bath of semolina, like so. Once again, this is the same tactic as we used on the Poolish dough, which is we push it from the centre out, basically stretch it like so. There we are. Shimmy, shimmy. I don't know how many thousand pizzas we've made in here. It's a lot. So you just get it started and then just pull back. Yeah, so this is a little bit of a slower oven than normal due to the conditions and slightly damp firewood, but yeah, you can still cook it, just takes a little bit longer. Base might get a little bit crispier. I'm gonna land that puppy there. And now for the tasting. Hopefully that has a speckled base. Yep, looking good. Any comments? So this one's just come off and yeah, it's got a bit of a crispy to it, so that's good. So let's try a piece of the Thermomix. Okay, so it doesn't just droop off, it's cooked all the way through. It doesn't have that signature, you know, fat, airy crust that you might otherwise get. I normally do this, just crack it like that, and good flavour. It's actually got some nice breadiness to it, so you can actually taste it as a bread. When it's thin, sometimes you just don't get as much of that bread flavour. Pepperoni is really crisped up because it's such high heat. That's what happens when you cook with aggressive heat. Everything just gets this super hot, fast char. The bread steams from the inside. It happens so quickly that the flavour is really fresh. Poolish. Yeah, so there's your typical bubble that you'll get on the outside of a Poolish. You'll typically get a little bit of a droopiness to the dough, and they flip up like this and then they fold, and then that's your bite. I like that better. The ratio of bread to cheese and pepperoni is better in that bite, and look at the delicious base. So that's so great. No problemo. And here we go, the Ooni classic. It's not as droopy as the Poolish one, which is interesting, but you know, still the ingredients are holding on. Sometimes the ingredients can slip off, but I'm doing it again, so I'm going over and I'm gonna fold it, and there's the bite. It's a great pizza. I've just got this pepperoni flavour filling my mouth. Tartness of the tomato, silky cheese, the beautiful bread, that little bit of golden char on the pizza dough. You can't go wrong. That's so delicious. That's so delicious. I'm going to say these two are very close. So the Poolish and the Ooni classic dough are very close. I could barely separate them. Thermomix makes a great dough and it's ready pretty quickly. The rolled dough is not as good as the handmade or hand-stretched dough. That's just a definite outcome. So thank you for watching. Please stay tuned for the next episode. It'll be coming soon.